January, we have been setting the tone for the entire month by grounding ourselves in these teachings of science of mind. New thought, science of mind, oneness, whatever you want to call it, unity. It's all this spirituality and these teachings that go along with it. And so we are doing this by delving into some books by Ernest Holmes. The first one was this thing called You, and then we had this thing called Life, or The Art of Living. They changed the name. And today, coincidentally, which we know there are no coincidences, we're using the Science of Mind book. Dana didn't actually know that. So far this month, we have discussed how important it is to allow our gemstone nature to radiate and shine, because it's been covered up with the debris of limiting or old thoughts that no longer serve us. And so all of that debris and grime is what we're clearing away to let our gemstone nature just radiate once more and move into the flow of life, but consciously. So we're creating consciously. That's the crux of this whole teaching, is to create consciously, not by default, which no one ever taught us that we could create consciously. So we're teaching you now, right? So that's what we're doing. So 2 weeks ago, we talked about faith as an assumption, an opinion, or a conviction. And we described each one of those categories and how vital it really is to deepen into faith as a conviction, to really feel that faith, to feel it unconditionally. And we do this by entering into a definite understanding of our relationship with this higher power, with God, with infinite intelligence, with whatever you want to call this creative being. And so we learn to do this with the power within us and create life as an art form. So we live our life creating it. That's why a lot of times I'll just, as they say and as I do, go with the flow. Because we don't know, really, of all the good there could be in life. We think it's just like, do this, like a little errand. Like, I went out on a little errand on Friday, and it turned into a 6-hour really fun evening with dinner and dropping gifts off, and none of this was planned, but I opened up to the infinite flow of spirit, and it turned into a lovely fun evening that was not planned at all by my mind, but I'm open to direct guidance, right? So we developed that conviction of knowing that the universal good is always operating in our lives, in dark times as well as in joyful times. And right now, look at this, I don't even need my glasses. I'm cured. I can see again.
There you go.
Right there, right there, I got cured. How about that?
So it is.
That's how beautiful, that's right, that's how beautiful these teachings are. So in this talk this week, we're going to look at how to use the science of mind to create, that's what this is, teachings are called science of mind. This is the basics, the nuts and bolts of our teaching that I like to start January off every year and just going back to the basics. So today we're going to learn how to effectively use this thing called spiritual mind treatment or affirmative prayer, just so we can get an idea of how that's done. So I have a reading from How to Use the Science of Mind by Ernest Holmes, and in the introductory of that book, it's called How to Use Science of Mind. It's a great little book, really good book. He writes this: there is a power for good in the universe available to everyone, and you can use it. This book teaches you what the power is, how it works, and how you can use it to help yourself and others. This is Holmes. If you will accept the simplicity of its statements and follow the instructions given in the examples of how to use this power, you will find yourself engaged in the greatest experiment of your life. I love that. And it's true. Any of us that have taken these teachings and really used them, and Holmes says that, don't believe me, try it to yourself, has seen the difference in their lives, co-creating from this conscious vantage point. So you will find yourselves engaged in this greatest experiment of your life. The human mind needs and must have a direct approach to spirit. It is natural for us to reach out from our ignorance to its enlightenment, from our weakness to its strength, from our darkness to its light. Somewhere along the line, we shall have surrendered our weakness to its strength, our fear to its courage, and our lack to its abundance. How to use science of mind is all about the consciousness of prayer. Ernest Holmes formed this technique, this formula of praying, which I absolutely love because it gives you the 5 steps and you fill in the blanks. Our professional practitioners have studied this. That's 2.5 years of formal training and practitioner class, and at least minimum 3 to 5 years before that. So there's a lot of training that goes into professional licensed practitioner. We're all practitioners, and Holmes talks about that, of science of mind. All of us are, because we're using the power consciously, so we are all practitioners. So when I first read Ernest Holmes and it said practitioners, I thought that meant that you had to be trained, but it doesn't. It means that anyone that uses this philosophy, the spirituality, anyone that uses it is a practitioner of religious science. And so, this morning I want us to look at what the consciousness, because we see Jesus as the master teacher, as the way shower. What he taught was not what I was taught in Catholic school, I'll just say that. It was not what I was taught in Catholic school, but when you really take apart what Jesus represented, it was new thought. Because he said he could, these things that I do, you can do, and better. He gave us, I am the example, not the exception. He gave us the tools to really move ahead, and that was empowering. This is a very empowering spirituality. So this is the consciousness that Jesus brought to prayer, which is why he was, but it was complete conviction, complete faith. So he was able to cure immediately. In How to Use Science of Mind, Holmes writes this: our entire prayer or treatment is based on the assumption that there is a spiritual pattern at the center of everything. I love that. A spiritual pattern at the center of everything. This perfect pattern was always there. It was implanted by spirit. The imperfection has been added by the human mind. What the human mind has put there, it can take away. What the divine has implanted cannot be uprooted. This is all Ernest Holmes. It can only appear to be covered up. Spiritual mind practice, which is prayer, is the uncovering of the divine nature. And we're going to experience this later on in this talk today. We're going to experience affirmative prayer and how powerful it can be. It is. Much of the time in this particular book is spent laying out the concept that at the center of each and every one of us is this divine energy. This is the truth. This is our eternal, immortal self, right at the very core of who we are. And I have to say that all the time because I remind myself of that all the time. And so as these physical bodies disintegrate and go back into the earth from which they came, that spirit within us that is divine is forever. That expands, that unfolds into something greater and something else. And we'll all know this when our time is ready, and we all have that that time to be ready, because we all have the expiration dates. You know, we don't last forever, but our spirit, the point being, our spirit does. That essence within us is eternal. That gives me great comfort. It really does. And that's the conviction of faith. Conviction of faith. So, the spiritual truth, I'm going to show you this is kind of what the practitioner students, we just finished learning this. The spiritual truth of different situations. So I won't go into situations, but the spiritual truth of chaos is calm, right? The spiritual truth of lack is abundance. The spiritual truth of hate is love. And the spiritual truth of disease is wholeness. Wholeness, nothing missing. The spiritual truth of disharmony is harmony. And Jesus knew this, which is why his prayers were so effective. And that's what we train the practitioners in, knowing this, that it comes from the consciousness of the one doing the prayer. You're doing the prayer within yourself. So how can we get there? How can we get there? Holmes gives us wonderful counsel when he writes, "The universe can only give us what we take. And since our taking is a thing of consciousness, the universe can only give us what we are aware of. No doubt our eternal evolution is an everlasting process through which we become more aware of life." Hear these words. These are powerful. "It is at least a thing of joy to contemplate that no matter how good we may be experiencing life today, it is but a forerunner of the good to come." And then he writes, "It is though we were dipping up water from a limitless sea." Get this image. "Each day we may use a larger measure, and each day dip up more. The ocean will never become exhausted. As a matter of fact, everything we dip up will run back again into it, only to take new form. Thus, the play of life goes on within itself forever. Spontaneous self-realization flowing from an infinite sea of self-knowingness." His words are just so powerful, and it's like the more you read them, the deeper that they resonate with you, the deeper they go. Because when I first read them, I didn't know what he was talking about. All I know is it felt good. It felt uplifting. And so I got excited about it because I had never read anything quite like this. So this completely resonated with me, this teaching of Ernest Holmes. And it's of unity, it's of divine science. There's so many different offshoots of spirituality that fall under this religion of New Thought. So this is a religion because we gather to celebrate a higher power, but we're not separated from it. And we do not have any dogma, which is like so good for me, because I don't like dogma. Just rules to break, that's all. So this is an openness of you get to co-create it. And there's no doubt in my mind that this is the truth. There's absolutely, that's the conviction. And there's another way to get there, though, Holmes tells us. Unless through it, this is the part that's going to lead us into the how prayer works. Unless through a simple, direct act of faith, we instantly feel that divine center, which is possible, then we must resort to a method, he says, to practice with assurance of consistent results. One cannot depend entirely on the inspiration of the moment. We must have a method or procedure, a way to arrive at a spiritual awareness through a process of statements. And that's where our 5 steps of prayer treatment come in. And he teaches us. Ernest Holmes took what all the great philosophers right back to, even before Socrates and Emerson, who he loved tremendously, all felt the same way, but what Ernest Holmes did is that he gave us this gift of a tool of spiritual mind treatment, and he broke it down into steps. And we are going to do a personalized 5-step prayer in a few moments. But first I want to just discuss what are these 5 steps. And in my brain, there's 6 steps. Because there is always that purpose. Purpose is the directive. So before you start the 5 steps, you want to know exactly what it is you're praying for. You want to be direct about it. So that purpose should be positive, present, and powerful. It should be the exact thing that you would like to manifest in your life, and it should be as if you already have it. As if you already have it, but always in the present moment. Because remember, the law of the divine, of the universe, it responds to everything. It doesn't know past, present, future. So if we're thinking about the past and it doesn't feel good, but we're wanting something to happen in the future, and it's not going to vibrate at the same level, and the law will give us nothing in return. So the law of attraction is based on this whole theory from Wallace Wattles. It's based on what he called this invisible substance. That's what we're calling it, divine energy. So we have to be specific in what we want, clarity and specificity. So first we have recognition. That's the first step. Recognize that there is a power for good that is beyond anything that we could imagine. The infinite, we try, because we're human, and we try to imagine. So we imagine this loving energy, just looking at the universe and beyond, how everything is connected, because if one planet shifts or moves, it affects the whole. The whole cosmos is affected by that shift. And so we recognize that this creative power has created all of that and so much more. So it's beyond our comprehension, but as humans, we have this intuitive voice within us that wants to recognize a great power, a creative force, that life is so much more than just getting up every day, going to work or whatever you do, and coming home and going to sleep. It's so much more than that. And we can create what we want out of what we already are. So anyway, God is the first step. God is the infinite possibilities, the loving energy. They can go on and on. It is the harmony, the divine right order. And then that brings us to the second step. Second step is unification, where we unify with this recognition of this higher power. So what God is the truth of who I am. I am a creation of this infinite source of unlimited good. Therefore, in my life, there are unlimited possibilities. You see how I can put my own words in, but there is a formula. We studied this in foundations class. There is a formula to it. And then we get to realization. That's the third step. And the third step is where we're going to look at our purpose and claim that is already happening. It's already happening. I claim it as my good right here and right now. And this is the part of prayer where you want to be specific and direct. Holmes talks about that, but don't outline. Meaning, you don't have to tell the divine how to do something. You just have to know specifically and directly what it is, clearly, that you would like to experience in your life. Let me go back to the book again and quote from Holmes. In treatment, which is prayer, words are always specific and direct, because consciousness must be conscious of something. It was like that. Therefore, no matter how high one's consciousness may be, it will still remain merely an atmosphere of consciousness unless it is directed. We must directed. Or else we create by default. We're always creating. Either consciously creating or by default, one or the other. I found that consciously creating is a whole lot better than just letting life happen.
Yeah.
And then dealing with it from the outside. You know, if I take care of this and if I take care of this, it's all an inside job. In other words, we must know what it is we want because the universal law responds to that. And that law is what gives us. It's that law of attraction. These spiritual laws and natural laws are always in operation. We get to use them when we become aware that we can. When we become aware. So he has an example in his book, The Art of Living, that tells of a client. This is just an example of how it kind of works. This is a client that Ernest Holmes once had. She was a piano teacher. And being a student of this spirituality and how it works, she couldn't understand why she was unable to demonstrate what she had been praying for in her chosen profession as a piano teacher. It ever happened to you? You keep praying and nothing ever happens? This is, now we're going to find out why. She was always saying, God is all there is. God is the only mind there is. God is the only presence there is. God is the source and supply of all. She didn't say my needs, I just added that because she should have said that. But anyway, she left it as the presence there is. And she would walk around and say these statements, which are true, all of the time. Holmes said she labored under the misapprehension that abstract statements, because she wasn't relating to them, not really, abstract statements can produce definite results. No greater mistake could be made in dealing with the law of life. We must always connect the law with what we are doing. This she had never done, and that is why she failed to demonstrate. She wasn't putting herself in that. She was knowing these statements were all true, and she was knowing those, but she wasn't saying, and this law works through me, this source of all good works through me, and I demonstrate. She wasn't being specific as to what she wanted to manifest in her life. And he said that that's one of the reasons that she had failed to demonstrate. She wasn't connecting her feelings, her emotional state with what she was thinking. The two together are powerful. So we think a thought, but we must have that feeling connected with it in order to really fully manifest. Otherwise, it just doesn't connect. The law just, it might give you dribs and drabs of something, but it will never give you the full manifestation of your vision or your desire until you act as if it already is done. Building upon that conviction, let me go back to this woman. She already possessed. Holmes taught her to think in the following manner. I have a service to render. My business is to teach the piano. Whoever needs my service, whomever I can personally benefit, those whom I can particularly aid in this art, are irresistibly drawn to me now, today, in this moment. You feel the difference? So God is this, God is that, God is this, which is all true. But she was connecting herself to it. And that's the power, the passion, the knowingness, the conviction within her. Holmes taught her to live in expectancy. That wherever she went, she would meet people who would desire her assistance, who would be glad to have it, and who would be able to justly compensate her. And this is called, it's a term we use in science of mind that we love, mental equivalent. It's the mental equivalent. We have to know what it is we desire We have to hold that mental picture. Remember, the universe thinks in pictures. If you think of a house, and you want a house, so you are holding that, and the law is always working, so it's not like it's separate, it's God. Law is God, it's universal law, for those that don't understand that. So you want a house. You're thinking so much more than a picture of a house, a drawing of a house. You're getting the feeling of living in that house. You're getting the feeling of what it is you want to expect and live in that house. So that's what the universal law is responding to. So that's what we want to have, a clear, specific idea. We want to know what it feels like to live in that house, not just a picture of a house. What does it feel like to have that dream job, to be in that perfect relationship? Like, what does it feel like? So this was an entirely a new lineup for Holmes's client, and one she had never thought or used before. Holmes assured her that her belief in the infinite was right, that her statements about God were correct, but that she just had not, and I love this phrase, joined heaven and earth into one harmonious unit. Drawn all of it into that oneness. So a few months after having kept these ideas in mind, she found pupils at parties, in the theater, on the street. All of her friends seemed to remember what she did for a living and referred people. Holmes explained that there is no magic to any formula. There's no magic to it. But that nevertheless, certain mental methods of procedure persisted in and believed in must produce definite results. Law of attraction. We must attract the vibration that we are at. If we're vibrating in a very low place, we cannot hold the vision. We're not going to be able to, of what it feels like to actually be in that manifested vision of what it is we want, because we're not a match. We're not a vibrational match for it. So we must have the conviction of faith in the power of God and describe it in our minds and believe it in our hearts. But we also must connect it with our human experiences, specifically claim what we want to manifest. This is like Science of Mind 101. But it's so important because we forget. We always forget. Let's finish our fourth and fifth statement. So the fourth statement is gratitude, giving thanks for what is already made manifest. I'm so grateful that this new home is mine now, and I get to have the security and joy and beauty that I am experiencing of living in it. I mean, this is giving thanks. I am so grateful for this perfect new relationship that uplifts my life, that enriches all that I do. This is the gratitude. And then one of the most important steps, this is the quickest step, is the last step, and that's the release. Because we must let go and let God. We must release this word that we have spoken, the prayer, into the law. We must do that fully and completely. And sometimes we do a whole treatment, and then 2 seconds later, we're thinking of the exact opposite. We haven't released it. We're still in the condition. We haven't released it fully into the law. We're still hanging on to the whole condition, the whole effect that we want to change. So we have to really be diligent in keeping our minds on that higher level. In The Art of Living, Holmes writes, the law of life operates through your affirmation. Nothing can hinder its working but yourself. It works neutrally, right? It works neutrally. It does not have an opinion. The law does not have an opinion. The only thing that stops it from manifesting instantly is our own belief system, consciously and subconsciously. And that's the rub right there. This is often why our prayers go unanswered. We hinder the law of life operating through us by not really releasing our prayers. I let this go into the intelligent law of universal mind, where I absolutely know this word is made manifest right here, right now. Like it's a thing, off into the universal wherever. The substance that brings back. That's how the law of circulation works. The other way we hinder the law of life from working is to bring about the good for which we have treated or prayed for, is because we hold on so tightly to what we think the answered prayer should look like. It looks like this. So when the prayer is answered, we're often not paying attention. So we're like, this is what I want. I want this house, so all these incredible houses and all of this. You can't plan the how. That's the biggest lesson to learn. You can't plan the how. You can get things into place, and you can be inspired and take those steps, but you don't know the real how, and that's where the faith comes in. So we think it should look a certain way. That's why I like to put at the end of my prayer, this or something better. Because universal mind always has something so much better than we could ever imagine. So, my friends, how do we use this scientific prayer, the science of mind? How do we become powerful prayers? One, we open our hearts and our minds to recognize this power for good, the recognition. And two, we include ourselves, the unification. God and I are one. Three, we speak our word for a specific word for what it is we would like to experience in our lives. This is the art of living. We create. And four, we deepen our consciousness through gratitude. Gratitude is the accompanying attribute of abundance and prosperity. If you want to be prosperous, be grateful. Be grateful, be grateful, be grateful. And finally, yet so importantly, the fifth step is to release it. And once more from home, have we enough conviction to turn from negative conditions and mentally contemplate their opposite? Can we turn from poverty and want to the acceptance of abundance? Can we turn from sickness to a belief in health? Can we shut out discord long enough to contemplate harmony? We become effective practitioners of this science when we have the will to try, the courage to make the attempt, and the faith to believe in ourselves. Because we have confidence in the law of good. The simplicity of this conviction is enhanced when we realize that nothing we have to change is outside ourselves. So once again, within. Within. It is an inside job. It always will be. So we're going to do spiritual mind treatment, and it will be personal for each and every one of you. And I wanted you to think of something you would like to manifest. It could be a state of being. Just more peace in my life, more joy in my life, more love in my life, whatever it is. Just think about what it is. Yeah, you can close your eyes if you want. Just think about what it is as we're going to prepare for prayer. So I'm going to go through each step. I'm going to label them. So the purpose of this treatment is that each person manifests that which they desire to experience in their lives. So I go into recognition. I recognize there is a power for good that is forever expressing itself through life, through creation. And this infinite genius, this creative genius, always creates in peace, in harmony, in perfect order. There is nothing that is outside the realm of possibilities in the mind of God itself. Let me move into unification. Therefore, I know that I am one with God, and if I am one with God, then each and every person in this room is one with this infinite source of divine good. Each one has within them the ability to create anything that they vision for, anything that is good, anything that is uplifting, that is inspiring, that is filled with enrichment and beauty. And then we move into the realization. And I claim, I declare right here, right now, that what each one here holds in their minds to manifest, the vision, the dream, the desire to manifest, is coming forth through their consciousness into their experiences. Every aspect of this divine guidance is activated right here in this moment through the consciousness and the free will of each person here and now. And so as we expect this good to come forth in our life, I am so deeply grateful. Move into that fourth step. I am so grateful for this loving, perfect manifestation in each and every